Okay, bro. Now, before we had talked about we talked about therapy and for men specifically, different ways that you can outlet or even talk, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of them people. I'm apprehensive about all things therapy, all things group discussion. So, what things are available for men, and what does it even look like?
Yeah, a lot of the things I've done, just being I've had the benefit and the pleasure of being a part of, a couple of good men's group over the course of time, and it's just just an environment, man, where just men kind of come together, just chop it up. It's like not real hardcore formal. It's not it's just open. It's a safe, non-judgmental space where men can gather and have conversations. Sometimes you might have one that's through church, where it's more based around scripture and around the word. Some you might have it's just dudes talking, so everyone feels welcome. Any type of religion, any type of background, whatever the case may be, because it's usually not really about background per se, but usually values are very similar, and at the end of the day, it's just all about men being able to have an outlet and to be able to open up and those type of things. And so we've had them where we've been in the barbershop, 20, 25 guys just sitting around having a conversation, whether it's topical, there's a specific topic, or whether someone just say, hey, who got something going on, and you just put it out there, and it's just conversation. A couple of the things, the rules are usually, first of all, is confidential, so nothing usually leaves out of that safe space. So men always want things to be confidential, so that you can sort of open up and not have that be used against you, or like come back up. A safe space where nothing is dumb questions, or nothing is sort of out of bounds. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, you should be able to open it up in that space, and be able to have an open conversation about it. No judgment. It's not real judgment on those type of things. So those are usually the type of atmospheres you'll find. You'll probably have someone who's like a moderator or a leader, who kind of keeps things in order, and maybe probes the conversation, or maybe keep people kind of a little shorter than maybe some people may want to go. But usually it's just an open forum where people talk. So I've been in the barbershop, I've been in a cigar bar, I've been in the church setting, I've been in whatever the case may be. But I've just always found comfort in being in the men's group, and just having those kind of conversations, and just chopping it up with men. At some point, I look forward to maybe starting my own, and just again, being able to keep that. I'm not currently in one, because not one kind of currently in the area at the time frame where I'm open to be able to do it. But at some point, I'm going to get back in another one, because I find a lot of value in it, and then maybe host one myself. And so the ones that are topical, for example, and so again, they're confidential, so I wouldn't come here and say, hey, this is what we talk about, or this is what was said, or whatever. But I can give a kind of some examples of some that have been discussed, like what was the topics, and kind of give a generalization of maybe how it would go, just so you kind of have an idea of what it's about. So one of our other conversations, we were talking about anger. So with men, that's a big thing. Men and anger, and are being accused of being angry, or just anger is something they deal with, and they don't know how to manage it. So we had a men's group once about just talking about anger, and I think the topic was really like, anger is a natural emotion, and it's not a sin. So it is one of those things that seems sinful, but the Bible said, anger but sin not. Right, so anger is an emotion, but what you do, if you carry it to a certain extreme when your anger, can lead to like sinful behavior. So the topic was just like, anger is a natural behavior and not a sin. How do I control it? So that opened the forum to just discuss, okay, what is it? Where does it come from? It's an emotion, so what leads to outbursts, or what leads to whatever, goes back to dysfunction and different things we've talked about before as well, like, and just help people sort of uproot where anger comes from, being okay that it's just an emotion and it's not something bad or negative, but what makes it bad or negative is how you respond, or what you do when you're angry. and those type of things. And so again, that just makes for a meaty conversation among men, you know. So that's kind of one of the topics we've talked about before.
So I guess, you know, my apprehension has always been coming into a new space, right? And most likely there's people that you don't know. How much do you have to participate or not participate when you, I guess, you know, let's say you go into a new men's group? Is there like a mandate that you gotta come out sharing?
Yeah, no, it's all on you. You know, it's some people go and never speak or never speak for the first couple times, and then they'll speak up. Sometimes it's not about speaking; it's just about hearing. Man, it's just about listening. Sometimes it's not even about answers. It's just about being in an environment where you hear people with some of the same issues or with the same concerns or whatever that you have. I mean, there's a lot of times you don't get answers. I always say one of the biggest tricks of the enemy is isolation, like being able to have someone isolated both physically. You remove yourself away from everybody else, and it's just you, and then also isolating yourself mentally, where you're just allowing all the things you're dealing with to just stay in your head, or you know, you're not sharing it or talking with anyone because it's just one of those things where you've been taught from a child, you know, don't tell anybody what go on in this house, or don't cry, don't let anybody know, be strong, you know, be a man, be masculine, be whatever. And so we've got all these things built up into our mind, and we think that's what a man is or what a man is supposed to be, and we've really been kind of lied to. We've really been set up almost for failure because we're sitting there and some people are wasting away. You know, suicide rates and all those type of things are high among men because you're sitting there kind of isolated and you're just food for the enemy when you could be out there, you know, chopping it up with somebody else. And even if you're not speaking or even if you're not getting direct answers, which we all want answers, and I think you get a lot of answers, but sometimes it's just hearing and being around other people that share a similar struggle or have the same questions, so you know you're not crazy. You know, it's just not you all alone. You know, it's other people, you know, that kind of share the same struggle as you.
So when we talk about the men's groups, right, and then I guess the ability to share out, in order to get something out of it. I know you said that you don't have to really conversate. You can go there to listen. How open do you have to be? You know, I guess there's some topics that are probably taboo.
Yeah.
How far do you have to be willing to go to that, you know, in order to address maybe an internal issue, or, you know, any issue in general?
Yeah, and I think, and that kind of ties into your previous question, because some topics, some people go in and you might not be willing to say anything about that topic, and another topic that might be maybe considered lighter, you have more to say. But I mean, we've gone from things like anger to things like people have been molested. You know, and again, this is a group of men, so that's a strong topic. You know, and you'd be surprised how many men have gone through some sort of molestation growing up, whether it's by a female, by a male, or whatever the case may be, at all different ages. And if the environment is comfortable enough and you've been there, and people, you know, really honor the confidentiality of the environment, you will speak up. You know, you'll get answers, or you'll at least have open conversation because someone else is going to speak up. And again, I was in one of those conversations, and you'd be surprised at how many people spoke up and talked about, you know, some sort of sexual molestation in the past or some other issue that they've dealt with. Pornography is a huge subject matter in various men's groups. I think that's one of the biggest tricks of the enemy is pornography and those type of things, because again, most of us have been mishandled or talked about or shown the wrong things as a child. And so now, you know, you've had over the course of your life some sort of warped idea of what sex is about. We didn't learn it as a gift that God gave into the marriage covenant, and it's supposed to be used in a specific way, or the power that it possesses. So when people decide to pick it up out of the marriage covenant and put it in other places, it still doesn't negate some of the power that it brings. So that's why soul ties and all these other things are a point of discussion, because it's a powerful thing that was God given for the bonding, as a bonding agent into the covenant of marriage. So, man, all type of conversations. One of them, again, that leads me to why not only sex and molestation, but one question was why can sex be used as punishment against me? So most men, like in your average relationship or home, or maybe not average, things always flow, whether there's a congruency in the home and everything is fine, or if there's trouble, bills still get paid, things still happen or whatever. But usually the thing that's connected to emotions, or the thing that's sort of stopped or changed in problems, is sex. So men feel sometimes slighted, where it's like, wait, all this other stuff is non-conditional, and these things still happen, but all of a sudden sex is a problem. So then men are like, okay, if sex is an issue and I feel like it's being used as a weapon, or if it's held away or whatever. So when things aren't right between my wife and I, can I look at porn? Can I step out? Like some people have justified in their mind this idea of side chick and all that kind of stuff, which I don't buy into any of that, and I wouldn't recommend anyone do. But it's one of those things where people have created justification in their mind for certain things, So it's a valid question, and it's a valid conversation to put amongst men, to have that conversation, and then to also start measuring value systems and start saying, here's why you would or would not do something if this is your value system, and here's what integrity means, and here's what accountability means, and so forth. So yeah, heavy subject matter, sometimes comes out of those various conversations.
On that topic, what are the top three heaviest that, without giving us, I guess, too much confidential information, what are the heaviest subjects? I know you talked about molestation. I assume that would be pretty high.
You would assume it would be number one, but from an emotional standpoint, I would say in the groups I've been in, has probably been maybe number two or number three. And this is one I couldn't relate closely to because I hadn't been through it, but man, I've seen so much up close and personal when this conversation was had that it amazed me. I saw the most emotion, I saw the most anger, I just saw the most raw feelings come out. All these things with the subject matter of child support and men not being allowed to see their kid. Man, I never thought the conversation would have went that way, but it was very eye-opening for me. I'm glad I have never had that situation. I don't speak ill or don't judge anyone who's in whatever situation. That's not my business. That we all have our own situations and there's no judgment. But just for me to have had 4 children in marriage, there's a lot of things that I have not had to experience that some of my other friends and brothers have had to experience when it comes to child support, when it comes to just the ability to see their children, just some of the things they describe as how the relationship has gone, or I think it's a power struggle. It's a shift in power. And I'm not saying the guys are right by a long shot or whatever. Every situation is different. But there might have been a situation where the man was the overwhelming power or just had poor behavior or whatever the case may have been. And then all of a sudden, a child was entered into the picture, and then there was a power shift. And then that shift of power was not used in a good way against the man. I'm just saying, paraphrasing, some of the things that could be mentioned or have been mentioned. And there's all sort of situations. Again, there's situations where dudes are just deadbeats. They just don't take care of business, and there's tools in place to make them take care of business. Again, I can't relate to that either because I can't imagine anyone else, taking care of my children and my family. It just seems so much of a blessing and a job that's mine. Like, I don't relate to the whole deadbeat situation, but I understand there are some situations where the man is the villain, and some of these tools are put in place to help people get what they need to get. But there's also some situations where that shift of power that happened, didn't turn out well for the man, and so again, not having a high EQ, not being able to deal with certain emotions and hurt and all those type of things, really wanting to be a father, and those, man, that was just one of the most emotional. So I would say that was number one. Probably the molestation and just sexual addiction, porn, those type of things are number two, because those can get pretty deep, and there's a lot of scars that men have in those areas, and a lot of struggles that men have in those areas. And again, that's the taboo part, like things you can't really talk about or be honest about. And then I think the third one is really, it usually comes down to either something political or racial. I remember saying, oh man, what was the saying I used to say? Mob psychology, and this is a term I learned in college, or I guess created myself in college. There was a situation where college I went to, predominantly white institution. I was there on the track team, half white, half black. We were all family, man. Matter of fact, on this day that I'm about to describe, I walked into our student union with a white guy, one of my buddies on the track team, and so it was the day of the O.J. Simpson verdict. So we all used to usually congregate in front of the post office. I noticed everybody was going into the student union. It's like, man, what's going on? Hey, they about to read the O.J. verdict. So we go into the student union, all white and black people, just different races all over the student union. I'm standing next to my friend who's white, and then all of a sudden the verdict is announced, and it seems like a veil just fell between the room, and everybody all of a sudden was white and black. Like, it was no longer individuals, and we came in here together, and it's whatever. Not that there was tension between me and that person, but you just could feel the energy in the room, and that's where I thought I had this thought about mob psychology. There are times like O.J. Simpson verdict. There are times like George Floyd. There are times like this case we're seeing now with Carmelo. All these different things where sometimes it feels like something happens and people sort of congregate or join to their mob, which is either a race or a political party or a culture or whatever, and you forget about individuality. You forget about the people who, are your friends or your family or, your in-laws or whatever the case may be. And sometimes your mindset will go to, where do I stand with my mob? So that was a heavy one as well, where something political has come up, or something, George Floyd or something weird, because we do have a diverse men's group. So it's like, how do you navigate through those mob psychology moments?
Right. One thing I've thought about, and I just want your insight on it. At what point should, the young men join these conversations? Because it seems like, for some of our young men, there may not be a father or uncle present, but at what point, what do you think is like a good age for certain conversations to start taking place in a group setting? Of course, with proper guidance and all of that, but what's your thought process on that?
Man, I would say about 14 or 15. I mean, and the reason I say that is because I think when Elijah was 14 or 15 when I started taking him to some of the meetings with me, and I think he was getting some things out of it. I think he was able to see, first of all, at a young age, that men can be open, that men can be vulnerable. He's seeing at a young age how to share, and just how to engage in conversation. So definitely as a teen, if we can run them through football and we can do all this other stuff, we know the environment at school is harsh and crazy. We know they're already learning at a fast pace with their phone and their school environment. So yeah, I wouldn't wait very long if there's an environment that allows for, depending on the structure of the environment again, right? So, but I do think there's situations where our teens can start coming in, and if the group is not conducive to teens, maybe the group can reconsider how it meets and what it does to start bringing in some of the younger, some of the younger people. So yeah, I think that's really important. I'm glad you asked that, because I'm saying men, but also young men. Like, we got to start earlier to help break some of this dysfunction and to help open communication, because I hate to say it, but our younger generation communicates way worse, because they're all phone, they're all text, they're all social, and very few of them, do a lot of speaking verbally, especially in group settings. So I think it's important to bring them in early.
So, before we kind of sign off, what are the three biggest lessons that you've gotten from experiencing a men's group, or participating in one?
One of them is, don't afraid to be open in the right environment. Like, people have told you should shut down. People have told you should be secretive. People have told you should keep it all inside, pin it all up, bottle it up. One of the main things is that's not true. That's not the case. Like, you should be able to be open and conversational to whatever level you're comfortable. Even if you're not comfortable speaking, be comfortable hearing, be comfortable being. Because again, one of the biggest tricks of the enemy is isolation. So just put yourself in an environment where you can be a part and let things happen organically. The second thing is, out of the bigger group, you got to find one, no more than two people. Usually it's one, but no more than two. You got to have an accountability partner or accountability group. That's where you take the confidentiality and the conversation to the next level. This is somebody that you can confide in. The people that are my accountability partners, I call them the hand and the boot. This is somebody that can pat you on the back and can boot you in the butt, right? They can say, you're doing great. Hey, I'm proud of you. Man, that was awesome. Congratulations on the promotion. They're also the person that can tell you got to get your attitude together. Like, you keep procrastinating on that. You got to go take care of it. You're wrong in that argument. You need to go apologize. Those kind of things. So you got to have accountability partner, somebody that you can trust in and have that confidence in. So those are two things. And then I would say the third thing is, you got to be willing to be an encourager, and you got to be willing to be a helper and a healer, just like you're trying to find that for yourself. One of our strongest things is our testimony, right? We've been through a lot of tests so that we can have a testimony. A testimony comes out of being tested. So why go through all the struggle you've been through and just hold it in? Like, if it can help someone, if you sharing whatever you can share or saying whatever you're going to say can help somebody, right? So be willing to open up and encourage people, and again, yeah. So some of those other things. So those are most of the things. A couple other, just real quick, things I thought were important, conversational, because we didn't. I love talking about parenting. We didn't touch on parenting, but parenting with grace, man, that was huge for me in trying to expand the toolkit that I have as being a parent, and also trying to offer grace and understanding how to offer grace as a parent. I think that's one of the biggest topics for men that maybe men don't know or understand. You're the king of your castle, but God built us to be a safe space for other people around us and their dysfunction, those that we are responsible for. So how to offer grace in your parenting. And then the last one I'll say before we close out is, do you have an idol? That one was very interesting. And if you have an idol, so what is it? And that was a deep, deep discussion, because most people don't realize what having an idol is, or what idolatry is, or what it could be. Having an idol could be your bass boat. Some dudes just love to fish. They got a bass boat. They like, you can do everything, whatever, but I'm going to go fishing on this day. You can't stop. It's like, what do you hold in such a high regard that you put that above everything else? So again, for me, from a spiritual standpoint, God says, let there be no other thing higher than me. And sometimes we can put something in a place of worship and we not have the right person or the right spirit there in the place of worship. So everyone kind of knows my story. For me, at some point in my life at 27 years old, I had to be it had to be pointed out to me by the Spirit that alcohol was an idol for me. Like I spend more time and more money and more excitement on weekend warrior, alcohol than I did, at that time I was really trying to get closer to Christ. And he pointed it out to me in the weirdest place and in the weirdest way. But I know clearly that that's what it was. So some people, what is that thing? For some people, it's just their own personal time. You can't take this certain time away from me, or you can't take this certain thing from me. Somebody, it's their old school car or whatever. It's not that if it's in the right place and it's with the right level of authority, and it's a possession, but it doesn't possess you. But there are some things where, as men, we have a possession or a thing that's possessing us, and we allow it the highest authority. We allow it in a place of worship, and we don't realize it. So there are some things you need to check in your life and be like, is this an idol in my life? So yeah, that was just some examples of some of the great, just general topics, much more expansive than that. But again, we were talking in a previous talk about therapy and about just group settings and help, whatever it may be, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's joining a group and being able to just chop it up with like-minded people that are just flawed like you. We're all flawed individuals, and we just come together and just, try to help each other. The word says iron sharpens iron, but a piece of iron can't sharpen another piece of iron if it's not close to one. So if you're in isolation, if you're somewhere far away from other people, you need to get around some other people so that you can be helped and it can be a benefit to you.
That's good stuff.